quick simplified video, like everything I make lately. So maybe you have wondered, or maybe not, but anyway, I'm going to make the video regardless. How to learn coding or programming, which I use them as synonyms. One of the other, the same thing for me. Well, the first thing is you will do something like tutorials point or some tutorial like that after you have figured out that you want to learn that language, a programming language, and like Python, for example, and then you study how to write the variables, the lists, or the array equivalents, the dictionary, everything like that. But you don't memorize it. You sort of take a look at it and go like, so this is how it's done. To see what are the capabilities of the language that you want to learn. What are you able to do, and sort of how to do it. Once you have read all of this superficial stuff, from variables to arrays and creating classes and functions, and then the less important things like how to make a random number with this math or whatever, math point, whatever stuff, typical thing. You sort of have an idea of how it works. Then you have the pieces that you need to put together. That's important, because if you study only a small part of it and then you start learning with that small part, like you only know how to use variables, arrays and functions, for example, you don't get how to code in a professional way. You don't use classes when you should be. Your code looks bad because it's very long, so it's harder to read, and so on. You don't want that. You want to get an idea of the whole thing. You will read it later when you have any doubts or whatever. It's not a problem. Then the next thing that will piss you off, well, if you are new, is that oftentimes you are going to declare a variable. You have n, for example, n equals, and you put n equals 1. No, that's fine, well enough. Then you put k equals n, fair enough. Then you modify k, and n won't be modified, because normally, at least as the standard, it will copy the value, not the reference to the value. But what it will annoy you, and probably has annoyed pretty much nearly every programmer out there, and at least once, is that you'll find that when you do the same thing with arrays or with lists, you think that you have a new list. You don't have a new list. You have a different name for it. So then you need to search for a way to copy that list as a value, not as a reference. Because if it's a reference, you modify the new one, you modify k, you're going to modify n. So for example, you modify k in another function, and then you try to do something with n, and n has changed. That's annoying. It's an annoying thing, really. Well, so really, once you have those notions and you understand what is the scope of every variable, if you declare this variable inside the function and you haven't declared it before, it belongs to the function. If you declare it before the function, and then you use it in the function. You can still use it normally, it depends, but there's differences, and there's ways in which you can send a variable to a function, not as a value but as a reference, so that you can modify it inside the function, inside the method, which is the same thing, but it's inside the class, but belongs to a class. And you can get the modified version of the variable without getting it out of the function with a return, which gives you back that variable. That's pretty much it. It's just, it takes a few hours to study stuff, and then it's practice. It's practice and figure out how to do things. It's like chess, I guess. It's like a few rules, and then there you go. Yes, have fun.